Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my Sunday's Art of Truth for Sunday, April the 8th. Just with full transparency, I was not planning on doing a Sunday's Art of Truth because it is Easter weekend. Now, if you've been watching me at all, you know that I am a follower of Jesus, so Easter is extremely important to me. It's the foundation of everything that I believe. It's the core of who I am and why I am and how I am and all of those things. But that being said, without too much disclosure, it's a very difficult weekend for me for a lot of personal reasons. So I am going to push through. I got up this morning and I wanted to crawl back in bed. So, but this just kept pulling me and pulling me and pulling me and saying, I've got to do something with this emotion, the good, the celebratory, as well as the difficult. So that's what I'm going to do today. So chances are this is going to be a voiceover outside of the introduction, which is pretty normal these days for me. I did go ahead and put down some collage papers. I am going back to my old journal. The one that I've been working in, my 2023 mixed media journal, is not working for me. The way that I bound the journal makes it impossible to cross that center seam. So I'm going to be cutting those pages out and just putting them in the front of this one, and I'm going to continue to use this because this is a pretty decent size piece of paper. I don't have my ruler in front of me, but it is I think it's 11 inches by something 9, or I don't know what the height is, but I'll link it in the supply list. And as always, all the supplies that I'm using will be linked, will be over on my blog, and the link to the blog can be found in the description box. So let's get going. So I did go ahead and glue these down with my Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium, and I'm just going to show you my focal image here. All these papers are complementary to the focal image, which is going to go here, which is why I didn't put any paper here. And so this is the image that I'm going to be using. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? I got it off of Etsy from a clip art artist that does these watercolor beautiful images. I've gotten some with turtles, some with music instruments, some with fairy houses. They're absolutely gorgeous. So this is going to be the focal image, which is going to be somewhere in this area. Now all of these papers are going to get pushed back. Even this image, which that girl, I want her to peek through, but she is not the center. She is me, but she is not the center to this. Okay? So let me talk about the pages also, because these were very strategically picked as well. So as always, music is very important to me. Music is the language of the soul, I believe, and it always speaks to me because our life is full of song. We celebrate. We even have song in our sorrow, and that's kind of where I'm at. As I'm in that kind of in between place of celebration and sorrow, and so music always speaks to me in that regard. Now, obviously, the girl probably speaks for herself, but I picked this image. I've used it before, but I just went through my scraps and I found it. I'm like, this is perfect because I am alive and I am celebrating because of what Jesus did on the cross. So I picked the she paper, which I've talked about before, where it just talks about how she decided to be courageous. She decided to make a change in her life. She realized that happiness was within her grasp. She took ownership of her life. And in a way, this is propelling me to do this today because I did not want to do it. So that's that. And then these are I just felt like these were very complimentary to bring out some of the yellow, very little yellow in this image, but I wanted to bring out more of that because yellow is my favorite color. And so that's why I did it. So, and then this is a vintage ledger page. And this one spoke to me because there's a debt that has been paid. by this. The debt has been paid. The tally marks have been removed. We are human, and we still live our lives in error and in missing the mark and all of those things, doing our very, very best, but our sins have been forgiven. The tally has been wiped clean. So this is very emotional, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and put some gesso on here because I do want to push back some of these images, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to the voiceover. But before I do, let me talk to you about a little bit about what the products. I'm so sorry, guys. I got all choked up. So I'm going to be doing some stenciling. I'm not going to be doing stenciling with texture paste or anything. I want this to be very simple and not really elaborate. So I picked my Tim's Holt stencils, and I'll pick something from that. I've got my gesso to work with in various steps of this layout. I pulled my watercolor pencils. These are my Faber-Castell Albright Durer, very, very good pencils. So I pulled these over. I don't generally introduce water mediums when I'm doing acrylic work because these are always movable, but I'm going to use them today. I also am going to use my transparent raw umber. I'm not going to do a wash or anything like that. I am just going to apply some of this, move it around the page, and see what we get. I also have a variety of paints over here. Let me put this on here so you can see the colors and why I chose them. So I pulled my Payne's Gray because I love the gray that is in this area. So I'm going to be using a little bit of Payne's Gray. Again, not a lot of that because I want this to stay lighter. I've got my green gold just because it is an absolutely gorgeous color, and it's fairly transparent, as you can see. And then my yellow ochre, and I believe I pulled, this is light blue violet, so I thought that would be pretty. I have some Titan Buff in case I want to just get some buff color, some cream color in there. And then I picked this light pink. I'm not sure what I'm going to use, guys. As you know, if you watched me, it changes and evolves very, very quickly as I'm inspired through the project. So I'm going to go ahead again and start with the gesso, and I'm going to switch to the voiceover. So I'm going to use my Liquitex white gesso. I'm just going to use that to push back some of the colors and images in the background papers here, because I want those to really recede into the background. I don't want them to be the focal point, including the girl there that you see. Now, you'll probably notice in the photos at the photo at the beginning of the video that the girl does end up being more prominent than I had originally intended, but I will explain that here as we move along. So I went ahead and switched to a credit card just to get a little bit of a different effect there. Oftentimes I like to use a brush or my fingers, and just kind of depends on my mood at any given time. Gesso is a great medium to use in this case because not only is it pushing those papers back, it is also creating some texture, some really kind of grainy texture that's got tooth, because that's basically what gesso is. It acts as a primer, and it allows the other mediums and the other paints that we're going to be using to stick to it. So it's a great medium for art journaling as well as for any other mixed media kinds of work. So you can see I did push that back pretty far, and I did give it a good dry. And I do apologize. I know that the voiceover can be tricky sometimes, and in my current state of mind, it's been tricky today. So my apologies if things feel a little bit broken. So I just got a palette out, and I'm just going to put out my paint. So this is the Liquitex Artist Acrylic Light Pink. This is the Green Gold from Golden. It is also an Artist Acrylic. This is the Payne's Gray. It is a very, very deep and rich gray blue. This is Yellow Ochre, also from Golden. This was the, goodness gracious, what was it? Light Blue Violet, which was a perfect color. That one is Titan Buff from golden. Just grabbing a little bit more tools just to kind of have at the ready so that I can continue to just move through this a little bit more seamlessly. I love how it turned out, but it wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but that is okay because the process is more important than the product. So I'm going to start here with the light pink because I really wanted that to be a really strong presence on the journal spread, because I wanted to pull that out of the image that is the focal image, which is that cross with all of the watercolor floral around it. So I may as well just share here the reason why the picture at the end looks a little bit different than what I had intended was because I didn't plan very well where I was going to put my focal image in relationship to the girl who didn't get pushed back as far as I thought that I was going to do. So, but in the end, it is beautiful. It is my processing time. And so I feel like when we do that and we do that intuitively, there is really no wrong. So that being said, this is an inspirational project, an inspirational blog, and is not a tutorial for how to do mixed media or art journaling. I'm just opening up my world to let you see what I'm doing and take advantage of an opportunity to, again, come to you in an authentic way about things in my life that are difficult and how I work through those. And one of those things that I do is I create art. So what I'm doing here is I went ahead and grabbed some of the titanium buff. It's almost kind of a gray beige. It's kind of got a really dingy look to it, but it works really, really well with a lot of different paints. So I'm kind of going in over that light pink, around the light pink, and kind of blending that in, which is also changing the color of that pink a little bit, which I think was needed and was a perfect step here. So I'm going to go in with some other colors here. This is again the light blue violet, and I really wanted that to be also a star color in this spread because of the colors that are in the image that I'm using as the focal image, which is the cross. And so I love how this worked out. I did, as you can see there, I've got a baby wipe in one hand because I really like to use that to kind of wipe up some of that, spread it out a little bit, make it look a little bit more modeled, and I love that effect in this spread. It was perfect. And this process was a series of going back and forth between colors, so I will try to explain that where I feel it is important for you to know. And you will see me holding up the image from time to time just to kind of get an idea of what I want to have show around that image once I do glue it down. So again, that did not work out as I planned exactly, because I did some stenciling and I did use some modeling paste and such. So it was a little bit, I got a little bit off in my evaluation of where that focal image needed to be. But again, it was beautiful and the process was very fulfilling for me, very satisfying. Again, just this is more of that blue violet. Really, really pretty color. Not one of my go-to colors. It wouldn't be one that I would necessarily pick to create with. It's a little bit too vibrant for me, but it worked out really, really well here. And as you can see, I am going into the image of the girl, because I really wanted, again, for her to not stand out. I didn't want her to be the focal image. I didn't want her to take over the spread. So I should have thought about my layout a little differently. It might have been a little bit more artistically pleasing if I had done that a little bit differently. But again, that sometimes our art journaling is just it's a way to express ourselves creatively, emotionally, and all of those things. And so I feel like in that heart, there's no real wrong in that. So again, just gave that a quick dry. There's a lot of drying in this process because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any color mixes that I didn't expect by not drying in between. This is the green gold. This is the golden acrylic, one of my favorite colors. It's a very, very springy kind of yellow green, and it's just gorgeous. It's very transparent. I believe I showed you that in the introduction when I was talking about the supplies I was going to use. So it's very, very transparent. It's a gorgeous color. And again, every single color that goes into this spread is evident as it is relating to other colors. So really, really pretty. And so I'm just going around. There's really no rhyme or reason to where I am applying that with my brush. I'm just very intuitively doing this because, again, I wasn't really in an emotional place to do this, but at the same time felt like it was a good and healthy choice for me to do. So so it's a little bit rough in my being able to explain what I was thinking, what I was doing. So it was much more an emotional and an intuitive process than even a lot of my other journal spreads and projects. So this is the Payne's Gray mixed with the titanium buff, and I do end up going off my palette there onto my glass mat because I just didn't have enough mixing room there. So you're gonna see me going off the screen there, but that's just me going back in with the Payne's Gray and the titanium buff and creating a little bit more of a muted down gray. And I do come back and forth with this gray a lot because it was very much the look that I was going for, as it tells a little bit of the story. And again, as I mentioned in the introduction, if you want to read about the inspiration for this spread, you can head on over to the blog, and the link to the blog is found in the description box. And over there, you will often find more photos than you would see within the video or on social media. So you can head on over there if you are interested in reading about this Easter layout. Again, using my baby wipe to just kind of push that back, again, spread it out a little bit, and get a lot of variety of color. And so here I really began struggling with what I was going to do with that focal image because it was not a good layout. And so I also decided I would go ahead and bring in my golden and sap green hue, one of my favorite colors. So it's a little bit more earthy than the green gold that I did a few moments ago. And I was looking at the image as well. I'm not sure if that's the point where I was evaluating the size of the image, but there are these green tones that I really wanted to be able to pull out in the focal image by using that sap green hue. And then more of the gray and titanium buff mix. I really wanted to frame this out with those darker shades, and really kind of by doing that, it gives kind of a frame around the spread that keeps your eyes within the boundaries of that color and allows the eyes to move around in a little bit more natural way within the paper. I'm not saying that very well, so and feeling a little bit jibber-jabbery, so apologize for that if that's disturbing to you guys or frustrating. This is just me being me in the most authentic way that I can be, and honoring my own heart by doing this, even though I didn't really want to do it. So I hope that it touches you and that it inspires you. So again, another dry. And then I'm going to come in and do some background stamping. So I'm grabbing my Vintage Photo Archival ink and just a text stamp. You wouldn't have to have this particular one. In fact, I think I've tried to find it and I don't know where I got it. So I'm just going to be stamping that here and there around the whole spread, just to add a little bit of text interest, which text always tells a story for me, because our lives are all about words, and they are all about as I spoke earlier about music being the language of the soul. Our written word and our spoken word also are, and so they are always very meaningful to me in my artwork. And here, just thinking with my fingers, it was funny to watch this back and recognize that how much I was just tapping to try to think about what I wanted to do next. So that was kind of strange. So I am going to go in and do a little bit of stenciling. So I'm going to pick a couple stencils from this Tim Holtz selection that I have. I will say that I did start by trying to use gesso through the stencil. It's not my favorite technique. I didn't like it in this case because it wasn't bold enough. And so I do pull out my flexible modeling paste from Liquitex and do that again. But you'll see that here in a moment. So there's the flexible modeling paste. And I love this modeling paste because it does dry fairly thin. It didn't create a lot of heaviness or bulk on this spread at all. And so I'm using this Tim Holtz, and this is where I made the mistake, you guys. I didn't scoot that stencil over to the right far enough, and so when I was thinking and planning to lay out my focal image there, it was going to be on top of all that texture, and it just doesn't look good because you can see that texture kind of poking up under the image, and it's just not doesn't make me happy. So I'm just using a baby wipe to kind of wipe up little bits of that are just kind of stray bits that I don't necessarily need. So I'm going to continue this process by using the same stencil and the modeling paste in various other places around the page. So when you see me going kind of off screen there, I'm just wiping that stencil off so I'm not transferring a bunch of leftover modeling paste into places that I don't want it. I do end up grunging up that texture a little bit later, but it turned out beautiful. It was the perfect balance to get a little bit of a three-dimensional texture without completely going dark. I did not go as dark on this project as I normally would. So again, a quick dry and a close-up of that beautiful texture. I love how you can see things through it. It's really beautiful. Normally, I glue two of these pages together, and I didn't. This is just a single thickness of paper, so it was curling quite a bit, but it was okay. These are my watercolor pencils, as I mentioned in the introduction. I'm just trying to match up some of those pinks in the image. To kind of get a little bit, as much as I could, a similar shade there. I will be using a few others. I believe I used ultramarine, brown, and another pink. I believe it is, the pinks I used are Pink Madder Lake and looking at them now, Rose Carmine. So, and this is a water brush that I just keep handy right in front of me for this purpose. Because you can go ahead and make lines, as you can see me doing there with the watercolor pencil, and then just blending it out with the water brush. So a water brush is it's a canister that holds water, and you can squeeze it and it will disperse water. So here is where I'm struggling with the placement of the image. So I am going to be trimming that down. I'm going to go off screen for a moment. And what I would have really liked to do would have been to have that be more central, and it didn't end up being that central, but it was okay. I was happy with it in the end, and that's what matters. And again, for the most part, our art journals are intended for our expressive journey, and so I just happened to do Sunday Art of Truth, and so mine become a little bit more public. But this is about creative expression, that there are no rules to that. So it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily be super thrilled with a project that you make if it doesn't go the way that you think, but it's expressive and it's good for our souls to do that. So I got my matte gel out. This is from Liquitex as well. I use it because I am putting an image down on a porous surface. So I've got some modeling paste as well as some layers of acrylic paint. So it's just better to go ahead and use the matte gel because it's thicker and it just has that ability to kind of make contact with the base and stick that image on. So I liked how this part looked when I raised it up a little bit more into the far right hand corner. I think that was a lot more pleasing than what I had been thinking. So again, another close-up there, and that was where I was in my process. I was thinking about how I didn't like the way that laid out, but again, we have to roll with it. There's a lesson in the not giving up when things aren't working the way that we think that they should, and just allow that creative process, that emotional creative process to continue, and not interrupt it with that inner critic that says this doesn't make sense, or this doesn't go together, or this is a terrible composition, or any of those other things that I know I can have in my head. And so I just had to throw that to the wind and say, this is about me just following my heart, following the creative process, and see where I end up. And I absolutely adore how it turned out. So I'm just going in with some of the first colors that we used, one being the light pink. This is the blue violet again, and I will be going back and forth, pulling in some more of that gray. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on and let you watch for just a little bit here. Another dry here, and then just another close-up. I love how those two images got framed out again, even though I didn't intend for the girl to be that pronounced. It turned out to be very important to my processing of this space that I'm in this Easter season. So I am happy to give all the glory to God and be in the composition as well. So I'm good with that. So just coming in with my transparent raw umber acrylic ink from Liquitex. My mistake here is I did put it on a paper plate. Well, ink just soaks in. So like I keep looking at my plate going like, where's the ink? Like, why can't I get any of the ink off? And it's because it was on a paper plate. So I do switch here in a moment and go ahead and put it on my glass mat so that it doesn't just absorb into paper. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just using a baby wipe to kind of soften it a little bit. I didn't want it to go completely dark. And then I thought, well, I'll try to sop up a little bit of it with my baby wipe, but it was just, there was really nothing on the plate. There was the color of brown. That was it. So I'm going to put some on my mat here in a moment. It's just brought an overall grunge that was really, the star of the show in terms of the last steps here in the process. Really happy with how that turned out. It pushed the girl back a little bit more, which was really important to me. So again, happy with it. Going completely over all that texture as well. Not completely going dark, not doing a raw umber glaze, which I normally would do, but just allowing it to kind of sit on the top there. And then again, another dry. And I'm going to come in with some of the watercolor pencils. Again, this is brown because I wanted, again, to just continue to frame around the that image there, the focal image, as well as I think I did do some more around the girl as well. And off camera, I will put some kind of word on it. I'm just not sure exactly what I want. I don't want to be too quick to do that. So, and I realized as I'm doing the voiceover, I already did take my photos. So I'm going to have to take another photo with the, with whatever sentiment. I thought I would just get out my clickable stamps and just put something simple on there. But we'll see. I normally don't wait until the Saturday before the Sunday of Sunday's Art of Truth to do a project, but I had to do it, so I just had to kind of make the way and make time to do it. So I'm glad that I did. I love how that girl is framed out there. I almost wish I didn't go in on that left side there, that left corner. I think it would have been really cool for her to kind of just, that edge to just disappear into the background. But, you know, we live and learn, and again, I'm happy with it, and that's what matters. And then coming in again with the pink. I believe that is the is the Rose Carmine. And then I do come in with more of the ultramarine blue in the watercolor pencil as well, because I did lose a little bit of that color because of the raw umber ink, I believe, was what caused that to kind of disappear a little bit. So just bringing a little bit of that color back into the background. I was actually looking for a periwinkle blue because I felt like that would have been a better color, but I don't recall seeing one when I was looking at the colors. So I have a light ultramarine and the ultramarine. So, but it worked out okay. And then I'm very careful with these pencils because they're one of my more expensive sets. So a lot of times you can go in with a water brush and go directly water brush to the tip of the pencil and get color and pigment off of it. But with an expensive watercolor pencil, that's a risk because you can actually break off that tip and lose all that beautiful pigment. So I think I didn't do that much because I didn't want to ruin my pencil. So again, these are a higher end watercolor pencil, so I was trying to be a little bit more careful. I'm liking how that's being framed out now. I like it a lot better. Again, a little bit more pink there. I think that's the Rose Carmine. and a little bit more of the actual paint in those colors. So this is again the blue violet, and I think this was definitely needed as the last step. It brought back a lot of that color that we lose in the layers, and I think it was really a good move. So we are coming to the end of the video. So if you want to check out the inspiration, I hope that you'll hop on over to the blog. Again, the link can be found in the description box. And I hope that you're inspired to create intuitively, to create in your art journal, to also as a junk journal, to incorporate some of these techniques into your junk journals is also a beautiful thing. So again, I thank you so much for coming by, and I say bless you on this Easter weekend, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.